Hi folks, how you doing? My name is Ronan Kennedy and I am a career coach. Today I'm talking to you about goal setting. Super important and obviously super important for realizing your dreams, achieving the next stages in your career or achieving a personal goal. And also I think it's a very important time to do it, right? It's January 29th. If you haven't already set your goals for the year, well, now is the perfect moment to do it. You still want to do it while January is here so you can say you started the year off with a good start and lots of clarity. So, yeah, I just want to start off by saying, I think this is something that should be enjoyable. So, something you should be looking forward to. Um, a brief overview of some of the topics I'm going to be talking about in this webinar. Creating goals for different areas in your life. So normally I'm a career coach, but really goal setting goes across all the different facets of your life. And if you're going to set career goals, why not go ahead and set goals for other areas of your life as well? It's a perfect moment to do so. I'm also going to be talking about developing a vision board, and I'm going to be hopefully giving you some inspiration throughout the session to not give you some goals that I think you should have, but really help you see how you can frame goals and create goals that are really going to work for you. We're going to talk about prioritizing goals, consequences of not achieving goals, identifying challenges and solutions in a very practical way. So I want to show you one or two tools that I have and that I have personally found really, really useful. And then we're going to talk about habits and a simple strategy for reducing fear and anxiety when you go about trying to achieve your goals. So, as I said, this should be exciting. It should be something enjoyable. And the way I think about it is if you're going to sit down and do this exercise, that if you learn some of the techniques here and you're going to, assign time to do it later, grab yourself a nice cup of tea or coffee or hot chocolate, whatever it is that you love to drink, and something, and a nice chair, a nice notebook, and look forward to it. And it doesn't mean you need to sit down and do it until it's done. It just means you need to make a start. It needs to be winnable. It needs to be enjoyable, and it needs to be something you feel you can build on. So it should be exciting. That's the first point. But there's lots of reasons why we don't set goals or why we don't achieve our goals. And so I'm going to go through a few of those first, and hopefully we can dispel and we can get rid of some of those myths. And once we get past those, then maybe we can find it easier to set goals consistently and achieve goals. Okay. So one of the biggest ones I come across is people don't know the direction. They don't know what they're trying to achieve. And I think this is obviously a tough one, right? But it's really about sitting down and asking yourself, what do I want? So what do I want and what do I really want? Now, when I say what do I want, somebody could say, well, I want a new job. Well, what do you want a new job for? And they might say, well, I want a new challenge. And okay, that makes sense. A new job often is a new challenge, but also you could get a new challenge in your personal life. You could get a new challenge in your current job. Maybe if you took on a new project, you don't necessarily need to have a new job to have a new challenge. So really ask yourself, is it the new job you want, or is it the new challenge that you want? Somebody else might say they would like to have more money. So then it's a case of, well, what will that extra money give you? If there's something in particular you want to buy, like let's say a car or something like that, that makes total sense. Whereas if it's really more freedom to do something else, then really what you're looking for is freedom, not money in that case. So knowing your direction is really about knowing what you want and knowing what you really want, so that when you set out on the right path, you can make sure that you get there. I think sometimes people might go down a path where they feel they think they know what they want, but really when they get there, they realize the destination wasn't all it was made up to be. You see this often with celebrities where they feel, I got fame and I got fortune, but I'm still unhappy. Well, what is that? Well, if their relationships are not in a good place, or if they feel they don't have freedom to walk down the street and have a coffee, then they might not feel very happy about that. So really, what is it that you ultimately want, and to shape your goals in that way. So it takes a bit of time, it takes some trial and error, but maybe it also takes some inspiration as well. When you have that inspiration, you have some time to reflect, and then you get to try some things out. Then you get data, you get some feedback from the external world, and then you can refine and go forward from there. It's kind of the way I think about it is like if you're trying to find a new bike that works, or a new coffee shop that you like, or a new clothes shop that you want to go to, or a vintage clothes shop that you want to try, the more of these different types of experiences you try, the more data you get back, the more you know more about what you like, what's important for you, and then you can refine your decision making from there. I heard a good phrase that good decision making is based on bad decision making, and bad decision making is based on repetition, so doing it over and over again. So it does take time and a little bit of focus. So look, we've got time here now today. We're on this webinar, or you're watching this video maybe in a playback, which is fine as well. But you've got the time. So as I talk, if you feel you know some of the points, that's perfect. But just start writing down, what do I want? What do I really want? What's important to me? What do I value? What do I want my life to look like in a year or 3 years or 5 years? Start to create this vision that you can slowly start moving towards. And what you'll find is, as you create this vision, as you create these goals moving forward, you'll start to notice ways you can make that happen. You'll start to, manifest how that can come more towards you. You'll start talking about it. People start, referring you to places that might be able to help you out, or they'll be able to give you opportunities, or they'll be able to tell you someone else who is successful in that way. So the more you think about these things, the more you focus on them, the more you talk to other people about them, the more you bring them closer to you. And this is the way networking works as well, right? When we talk to people about what we want, what we're interested in, then we give them an opportunity to connect us with somebody else, and that brings us closer to them. So it's going to take time. It's going to take a bit of focus, but it's way better than not doing it. I guess that's obvious, right? It's obvious that if you sit down and you set goals, you're going to have a much better chance of achieving them than if you don't set goals. They've done research. Researchers have looked into this, and yeah, it tracks. It makes sense. People who set goals in university and were super clear on what they wanted to achieve were much more likely to be successful than people who didn't. And that's the other thing, is you get to create your own success. You get to decide what success is for you. Maybe it's a job where you work 20 hours a week. Maybe it's a job where you become a CEO. Maybe it's being able to work remotely. Maybe it's being able to have a couple of dogs and live off the land. You get to decide what it is, but you have to decide before you can actually get there. So the other one that holds us back is fear of failure, right? Lots of us are afraid of failure. We don't want to try because we feel it might not go well, and if it doesn't go well, other people are going to see, or they're going to judge us, or whatever it might be. And I could try to convince you that people won't judge you for whatever it is you do. I don't know whether or not I'll be successful in convincing you of that, or how important that is to you. Or I could try to convince you that you won't fail and everything is going to be perfect. But of course, I can't guarantee that either. But what you can do is you can think about the consequence, right? You can think about the consequence on the other side, like the consequence of not taking action, the failure of inaction. So if you don't try something, you don't get any feedback, you don't have any results, and you definitely don't have a chance of achieving it. So they're the consequences of not following through. Now, the consequences of failing, they might be worse for you, but then you get to decide what is worse, never trying or trying and it not going well the first time or the second time. And then you get the chance to improve it, to learn more, to go again. Now, these things can be humbling experiences, but that's how we learn, and that's part of it. For me personally, I think it's much more exciting trying something, learning, trying to get better, getting feedback from people, maybe even getting criticism from people. But then you get a chance to make things better, and you get to move closer towards your goal, and all that is like super, super exciting. So think about not just the benefits of achieving it, but the consequences of not taking action. And if you think, one of the regrets people have when they, they're lying on their deathbed, or when they finish their career and they think, I should have taken more chances, or I should have taken more opportunities, or I should have taken one or two risks because, a few other people did it, everything worked out for them. But it's not about necessarily taking risks. It's, that are crazy. It's just about taking measured opportunities. Now, I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about risks and how you can deal with those. But I guess this is the most important point for the moment, is talking about how you can overcome that. So thinking about when you look back at the end of your career or at the end of your life and you think, what are the risks I'm glad I took? What are the opportunities I'm glad I made the most of? And most people, when they look back, they won't say, well, I'm glad I didn't take that opportunity, or I'm glad I didn't try something new. I hope that's making sense. I'm going to check to see if there's any questions in a while, but I want to go through a few of these slides first. Now, the next one is making it winnable. So, how can you make it winnable? And what I mean by making it winnable is how can you start off with a new goal in a way that you know you're going to succeed? You know you're going to achieve it. So, you're going to start off on the right foot. So, one of the things you can do is take a really small step. Let's say your goal is to go to the gym once or twice a week. Okay, so what can you do to make that happen? Well, firstly, join a gym. How can you do that? Well, maybe you can sign up easily online. And if that is the very first step you do, which is sign up online, then that is a good first step. Um, Another thing that could be a simple first step, and I'm just giving you the example of a gym because it's easy to get. If you go to if you prepare your gear in the morning before you go to the gym, or at night before you go to the gym, in the morning, all you have to do is pick up your bag and run out the door. And that gives you a much higher chance of success, a much higher chance of creating that habit of pursuing that goal than if you haven't done that at all. And so it's just creating an environment or creating a situation where it's easy for you to follow through on your habits and it's easy for you to do things that are in the best interest of achieving your goal. That is how you make them winnable. Um, Another example is setting up a win-win. So let's say you're going to learn if you take on this new action or activity, or you're going to meet new people, or you're going to, let's say you're going to profit out of it. So you're going to win this way, or you're going to win this way. I'll give you an example. I have started a podcast in the last 3 months, and I knew that this was going to be a win-win because I was going to have a great time talking to people and learning from them and have fun. And if it's something that an audience or followers are interested in, they're going to learn, they're going to have a good time. So it's going to be a win on this side, or it's going to be a win on this side, or ideally both. So at the very least, I know I'm going to learn, and ideally other people find it useful and they follow it, and so on and so forth. So how can you make it winnable? Good question to ask yourself. Sometimes when we're thinking about this new course of action, we come up with all these challenges. So, well, write down all your challenges, especially if it's a big, audacious goal. You want to write down all the challenges that you have with this. And then what you do when you do that is you're separating your emotions from those challenges, right? Because once you write them down in black and white, you're almost coaching yourself through this process. And then you can write down the solutions in a very pragmatic way. It means we don't get too attached to it, or it doesn't just rumble around in our head and we never really solve them. We just think, oh, that's a problem with that, or that's a problem with that, or that's a problem with that. You write down your challenges, write down all the potential solutions. And now you're thinking like a business person. You're thinking like a very pragmatic person who's just coming up with solutions to problems. Now, if your goal feels risky, and I'm going to get onto the types of goals and some inspiration in a few moments, right? But firstly, one of the big blockers I find is people feel, well, this is a risk. I don't want to take on this risk, whether it's a personal risk, like I feel nervous or embarrassed, or I don't want to fail, or it's let's say a real world risk, like I might lose money, or I might lose a job or something like that. They're all very understandable risks. They're all very important things to consider. So what can we do to deal with this? Well, there's a wonderful blogger, writer, serial entrepreneur, this guy called Tim Ferriss. Most of you have heard of him. If you've heard of him, you might have come across a strategy he uses. I think it's wonderful. It's called fear setting, right? I have to give credit to him. He came up with this, but I think it's super and definitely worth talking through. So this is where he talks about there's 3 different steps to dealing with any sort of risks or concerns you have on the path to your goal. 3 steps: define, prevent, and repair. The first step, to define. Well, write down exactly what it is that you're concerned about. That very first step of verbalizing it. Firstly, because you verbalize it, you can process it. Once you process it, you get more clarity, and it helps you really identify what is it that I'm worried about. Okay. Because I find sometimes when people write that down, they might say, well, I'm worried about money. And I say, okay, well, is money an issue? And then when they kind of think of it, they say, well, actually, not so much that, it's more. And then they'll go on to something else, and they'll find that the other thing is more of an issue. Maybe it's fear of failure, or rejection, or not having a strategy, or not knowing some tactics to use to employ the strategy. So define each part and be super clear, like exactly what it is, not just failure. Like, what does that mean? Then prevention. So what can you do to prevent this issue from occurring? And you write down those. For each definition, for each fear you have, you write down each prevention approach you can have. Now, you might say, I don't think any of those prevention approaches are going to work. In that case, we have the repair column. So even if the repair column is about even if everything you do to define it, everything you do to prevent it still doesn't work, what can you do then? What can you do to save the situation? Now, I'll give you an example. Let's say someone's looking for a new job, but they decide, actually, one of my goals is to work for myself, or one of my goals is to start a company. We go, okay, that's fine. So define your fear. And then one of the biggest fears is, I might run out of money. We say, okay, that's a very legitimate, understandable fear. What can you do to prevent yourself from running out of money? And they think, well, I could continue my job and I could work a little bit in the evening or a little bit at the weekends. That's one idea. Another idea for preventing running out of money is to work part-time. Another is to go partially freelance and keep your money coming in. Another is to use savings and so on. Now, they're just examples. Obviously, it's going to depend on the person, their personal circumstances and cash flow and so on. But they're just examples of how you could deal with that fear of running out of money if you're becoming freelance or going self-employed or trying to start a business. And then repair. So let's say, even though you work part-time, you work for someone else and you try to do the new business in the evening or at the weekend. Even if you do all that, you still run out of money. What can you do? Okay, you can repair the situation by updating your CV, updating your cover letter, getting onto LinkedIn to your connections and trying to find a new job where you can start earning a stable salary again. So even if, despite all of your best efforts to prevent anything going wrong, it still happens, you can get in there and repair that situation as soon as possible. Okay. So one of the other things is, it feels like hard work. Now, I have good news for you. Not only should it not be too much hard work, it should also be enjoyable. We know from research carried out that one of the best ways, actually, I think they said it was the absolute best way of following through with one of your goals, was to make it enjoyable. We used to think, right, a lot of the pop psychology or a lot of the motivational thinking in the 80s and 90s used to think that the compelling nature of the goal, or the audaciousness of the goal, or how important it was towards your personal values or mission, was the absolute most important thing in terms of you following through with a goal. Turns out that's not the case, at least not for the majority of people. The majority of people much more interested, are much more able to complete new habits or consistently move towards a goal if they find it enjoyable. So then the question is a lot more fun. How can you make achieving your goal as enjoyable, as fun as possible? Is it doing it with other people? Is it getting help in the meantime? Is it creating an environment that you love to be in? How can you make it as enjoyable? Maybe it's breaking it up into the smallest possible pieces so you feel you're always succeeding, that you're always achieving. That's one of the things I do when I'm trying to keep momentum. I'm trying to keep finding the enjoyment in whatever I'm doing. I'm breaking it up into really, really small pieces so I can keep on saying, well, that's fun, that's enjoyable, that went well, that worked well. And there could be lots of other stuff over here that aren't going well, that I'm struggling with, that are problems that I have. But if I keep on feeling like that was a win, that was a win, that worked well, I learned something there, that went well, then I feel like I'm building up momentum. I call it like victory stacking, right? You're both putting one victory on top of the other. And now when it feels like you're winning and you're building momentum, it starts to feel fun. If you're doing it with other people, it starts to feel fun. And if you're interested in it, it definitely feels fun. So it shouldn't feel too much like work. I think that's one of the things with the gym. Like, if you're not enjoying the gym, it's a really nice idea to talk to someone else who does enjoy the gym and say, hey, what is it that you love so much about this? I asked one of my friends this recently, and his answer was great. He was like, well, I measure what I'm doing. I measure I measure how many reps I'm doing. I measure the weight I'm lifting. And then I keep increasing it. And every time I increase it, or every time I get them done, I get a little bit of a kick. I get a little bit of dopamine. That makes me feel like I'm successful. So I thought that was a great one, right? The progress and the improvement feels like an achievement, and that feels like fun. I know other people who they love the classes that they go to. They get a real kick from the energy and the music in the gym. So if you're not sure why something is enjoyable, but you still feel you should do it, like go to the gym or start a business or go for a new job. Try to figure out what other people, and if you don't know what's enjoyable about it, figure out if other people enjoy it and what do they get out of it, and that will give you some hints about what you can do. Okay, hope this is helping so far, folks. Please ask any questions in the chat, and I'll get onto them as soon as possible. I'm just going to refresh the page here and see if anything comes up. Yeah, afraid of failure is a huge reason for holding back, Jane. Absolutely. Thanks for contributing. Actually, Jane, while you're on, I would love to know if you have come across anything that really helps you get over that sense of failure. What has worked for you in the past? Or have you heard of strategies that have worked for other people? In my case, I guess I feel like in terms of getting over a sense of failure, I feel like if something doesn't work well, I think, well, that didn't work well. I don't consider it to be a total failure. I just think it didn't work well. And I don't consider myself a failure. I just think, well, I need to do that. I need to learn from that. I need to improve something, and I need to try it again and again and get better and better. So then that's just my personal strategy. I don't know if that would work for everyone, but I'd love to know what works for you, Jane, or what works for other people who are watching this. Another one is it feels not possible. So if you think like something feels not possible, I think you got to dig in and ask yourself, why do you think that's not possible? Is it a case of, you've never seen anyone else do it before, or you think it's impossible for you, or you feel like you don't have the resources, or what is it? Because in that case, it's really important to distinguish from what is a belief that you have, and then what is an absolute fact. Like, let's say if you feel starting a new business is not possible, or you feel getting fit is not possible, or you feel, buying a house is not possible. What is it about that that you feel isn't going to work for you? And then distinguish, is this just a belief or is this a fact? Now, if it's a fact, there's not too much we can do about that except look for, so that is a challenge that you've come up against, look for solutions to it. But if it's just a belief, then you have to question that limiting belief and see if there's a way around it. Okay. Now, moving on to the next slide. If you feel like you don't have any support, and I think this is one of the big ones that we come across, a huge thing in achieving goals is getting support. Now, there's this app. It's called, or it's an app and it's a website. It's called Stick.com. STIC.com. Now, Stick.com is a website set up by some behavioral researchers, and what they found with Stick.com, they found, so if they were checking in with someone and if they were being checked in with by someone else, that kept them in line with their goals. So if you have someone else to keep you accountable, absolutely find that person. We've all heard the phrase accountability buddy. So if you have an accountability buddy, that's great. Maybe there's someone else who's trying to achieve something and they find themselves, losing momentum or getting distracted or whatever it is. So finding someone like that is really useful. If you can't and you want to join sessions, I'm doing a session next week. Sorry, not this week, but next week, Thursday, the 8th of February at 1 p.m. Send me a message if you want to join that accountability session. That's going to be a group call where we talk about our goals. We talk about what we're struggling with. We talk about potential for moving forward. You can join that accountability session if you don't have anyone in your circle. I'm going to host it. It's going to be free. Get involved. And hopefully we can help you build up a bit of momentum there. So Thursday, 8th of February, if you want to join that accountability session, please send me a message and I'll add you to the Google Meet, and we can get on that call and talk about our goals and the next steps. The other thing the researchers found in terms of staying in touch with goals was, and now this is kind of a funny one. I don't think this is a very fun place to start if you're really taking on a big goal, but it's called anti-charity. That's where people would tell their accountability buddy that I'm going to give you some money to hold for me. And if I don't follow through with my goal, you're going to give that money to an organization I don't like. I actually don't like where the money is going. And it's going to, it's going to upset me. It's going to upset me so much that I'm absolutely going to follow through with my goal. Now that's a very harsh, it's a very intense thing to do. I think you'd only recommend something like that if somebody was really struggling to overcome a behavior that was really adversely affecting their health or their relationships, or maybe both. And if they just felt they didn't have much willpower, that's kind of an extreme intervention in that case. But for most of us, accountability is a good place to start. So please, if you want to join that session, send me a message. I'll add you to the event. Now, setting a goal. We all know about SMART goals, right? Specific, measured, and so on. SMART goals are clear, they're measurable. I think having a goal that's simple. It's simple to remember. It's simple to write down. And I'm going to show you one way I write down these simple goals is this formula, from X to Y by when. So I want to go from state X to state Y by when. Let's say you want to build a social media following. Okay, I want to go from 1,000 followers to 2,000 followers by the end of the year. Let's say you want to go to the gym. Well, I want to go from not going to the gym at all to going to the gym once a week by the end of February. Okay, that's a achievable goal. Or let's say you want to start graphic design. Okay, I want to go from not knowing anything about graphic design to knowing the 10 most important principles and setting up an account on canva.com, a graphic design website. I want to do that by the end of March. Okay, so you're giving yourself from state A or from state X to state Y by a set deadline, and then you know that's exactly what you're trying to achieve. So I really like that formula. I got it from a book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. Highly recommend reading it if you're interested in like project management or executing plans or even goal setting or solving problems, anything like that. Really fantastic book, The 4 Disciplines of Execution. You can listen to the audiobook or you can download it. I'm sure there's videos on YouTube that you can watch if you want a summary, but I got that formula from them and I love the simplicity of it. So I've always stuck with it. Now, in terms of the types of goals that you want to put together, of course, you can break this down in lots of different ways, right? Lots of different categories of goals, excuse me, that you can go into. Personally, I like these 5: personal, career, work, health and fitness, contribution, fun, and celebration. So the personal goals are all about, where do you want to, let's say, go on holidays next, or maybe you want to learn something, you want to learn a new skill, maybe you want to start reading books, maybe you want to visit the south of Spain, maybe you want to read the 10 best biographies of all time. What are some personal goals that you have? Maybe you want to conquer your fear of public speaking, take a history course, design your own clothes. I don't know. What are some goals that you have personally? Become a wine connoisseur. There's lots of different things you can think of, and just fleshing that out in your mind, like what would be a really fun thing to become good at. Another one is, so the next one is say career and work. Okay, that's an obvious one. Do you want to get a new job? Do you want to start working for yourself? Do you want to build a company? Do you want to learn more about leadership? Do you want to develop coaching skills? Do you want to take on a new course in project management? Maybe you want to study Python or Agile or some other technical skill. Maybe you want to get good at presentation skills, for example. So in terms of personal goals, one of my personal goals is to go to the gym 3 times a week. In terms of career goals, starting and continuing a podcast is one of my goals. Like by the end of the year, I want to increase my podcast subscribers to 1,000 people. Right, that's my goal. Hopefully, I get there much sooner than that, like by the summer. But it might take longer. I'm not sure. But that is one of my goals. I feel that's an audacious goal for me because I've just started and I'm learning the whole process. So there'd be some examples of personal goals and professional goals. In the case of the gym one, it's interesting because it's not necessarily like an end result that I'm looking for. It's a habit that I'm trying to build. So you can have end results, but you can also have habits. So which is the type of goal that you're looking to achieve? So the health and fitness one is straightforward. Maybe you want to gain muscle, lose weight. Maybe you want to tone. Maybe you want to start drinking smoothies or juices. Maybe you want to visit a nutritionist or a dentist regularly. There's lots of different health and fitness type of goals you could have. So if you've got the notebook out and you're taking notes, now is a great time to start writing, if you haven't done so already. Now, contribution, sometimes people say, well, what do you mean by contribution? Well, contribution is about giving back. It's about helping. It's about doing charity or sharing. So I'll read out some contribution goals just to maybe get the juices flowing, get your ideas flowing for what could be some contribution goals for you. So let's say coaching a local football team, organizing a coffee morning to raise money for children in need, teaching English to foreigners or teaching a language to foreigners who maybe can't afford it, answering calls for a charity helpline. And maybe if you're doing a half marathon or a 10K or a full marathon, that you can donate some of that money to charity. And maybe even if a friend is struggling with a problem personally or professionally, you can go for coffee with a friend, or you can reach out to them and help them with something. It's really about choosing what is the way you want to solve the problem. What is the way you want to achieve these goals? They're just some ideas to spark your own interest. The last one is fun and celebration. So it's funny, we often don't have goals for fun and celebration and all the sort of joy that you can have in life. We might book a holiday, but do we have plans for fun at the weekend? I know for ages I didn't. I just kind of bumped into my weekends. I didn't really have a plan to go to a cinema or meet friends and go to a hike or go for a dinner with family. But once you kind of sit down and think, well, what is my perfect weekend? What is a set of events or a weekend schedule that I really love? And then once you start thinking about that and you start talking to people about it, it starts to come together. So that would be another thing to plan. So fun and celebration goals are really nice to put in there as well. One of my ones is I want to go to an island off the coast of Portugal called Madeira. There's some beautiful hikes there, lots of nature, and I really want to go swimming in the sea off the coast of Madeira. So I'm hoping to do that next month, and that will definitely be a fun and adventurous goal for me. Okay, great. Now you might think, well, okay, you're talking about tons of different goals here. I'm already busy. You might have a family that you have to look after. You might have all sorts of other obligations. How am I supposed to get all these sort of things done? Well, I think it's best to prioritize too. It's very difficult to do, to be thinking of 4 or 5 things at the same time and to be, carrying out your work duties to a high level. So I think prioritizing too. What are the 1 or 2 most important goals out of all those that I've spoken about that you want to prioritize? Now you can still have the other ones there, but if you think there's 2 core pillars here at the top, and then underneath that you've got the other 2 or 3 that you want to achieve over the course of the year. That way you'll be able to focus, you'll be able to prioritize, you'll be say, well, I want to do this, this, and this, but really I'm going to focus on this one and this one. Okay. I'm just going to check what the comments are to see if there's any more feedback. Okay, we are all good there. So the next part is habits and steps. So now that you've got your goals written down for, let's say, personal goals, contribution goals, fun goals, health and fitness and career goals, so on. It's really about breaking them down into either habits or action steps. So what is a habit you can create that's going to allow you to reach that goal? Right. So if you want to reach that goal at the end of the year, what do you need to do each month? And then if you need to do that, if you need to achieve that thing each month, what do you need to do each day or each week or a couple of times a week? So it's breaking the bigger goal down into smaller steps, into habits and action steps, so that you actually have a chance of achieving it. If I think I want to have 1,000 followers by the end of the year, I need to break it down and think, well, how many do I need to have in 6 months, and how many do I need to have in 3 months and 1 month, and then what do I need to do this month to achieve that? Well, I have to start promoting it, or I have to get a marketing person to help me promote it, and so on. Okay, we go into all that more detailed conversation then, and then you can create a plan based around that. So creating the habits and action steps then feeds into setting the schedule. What is the schedule? And once you have the schedule in your mind, you put it into your calendar, and then you can really visualize it. Because once it's in the calendar, once it's set in the schedule, there's a much higher chance of it actually coming through. because then you have to either make a decision in that moment that you're going to follow through with it or not. Whereas if it's not in the calendar, if it's just a hope, then often it can just be discarded at the last moment. Finally, I think a nice thing to do to really remind you every day and to create that vision, especially if you're a visual person, is to create a vision board. And a vision board is something that you can have on the screensaver of your phone. So every time you pick up your phone, you see what your goals are, you see what your vision for your future is, and you can start orientating yourself to that on a regular basis. You can start recognizing that when you see it in real life. You can start talking to other people about your vision, and it's just a constant reminder. A really nice tool to create a vision board is canva.com, canva.com. In there, you can just search for vision boards. There's lots of templates there, and you can upload photos easily. Then you can download it onto your phone, and you're going to have a very nice vision board for yourself. I find this very helpful. I find it works, it comes true. And also, once you've visualized it there, you can continuously be checking in to see if that's still in line with the way you feel, if that's still in line with what you really think. So it's also good from that perspective as well. So look, I hope that has been useful for you. I hope it's given you some keys for creating compelling goals, for creating action steps, for challenging your beliefs about it, for dealing with any fears or concerns you might have and coming up with practical solutions for them, for overcoming the fear of failure by thinking, well, what really is failure, and is it this really big problem, or is it just another piece of learning that you can build on and incorporate back into your next effort? So I hope that's been useful for you. Thanks so much for watching. Before I finish up, I want to remind you one more time that if you find all this useful and interesting, but you find the accountability difficult, please join the accountability session. Message me. It's on Thursday, the 8th of February at 1 p.m. We're going to be doing it live in a group session, and you can ask questions, you can interact, you can speak with me, you can speak with the other people, and we'll hold each other accountable and we'll make progress. Finally, one last thing is, if you get a chance, write down what your key takeaway is and what your key action step is. What is your key action step from this webinar? That's what you have to do over the next couple of days, and that will set you on the right path to achieving your goals. All right. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week at 5:30.